What is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women.
All right. What is it? Friday night? Friday night already. Jeez, what's going on? It's Friday night, the Friday night live stream, Radio Baloney Live. I am your host, Richie Baloney. We've got lots going on. Let's check out what's going on with the chat first. Let's see. Much Joy, how you doing? Greetings from Ontario, Much Joy. Good to see you. Spambot, how you doing? Looks like we got Turtles in there too. We got Jesse. Everybody showing up. All right. Spambot says, I've been watching my X updates with glee, watching the Democrats melt down over the DOGE discoveries for funding evisceration. It's pretty amazing. Of course, we're going to go over the USAID stuff and the DOGE stuff. We're also going to go over, we're going to do basically our own little personal Canada DOGE tonight too, because we're going to go in. Obviously, this has sparked a lot of interest in what the Canadian government is spending. I've actually covered this in the past, but not recently. But we're going to do actually quite a bit on that tonight. Ghetto Monkey, how you doing? Says, all right, let's do this. Looking forward to my only source of news. And that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. All right. Anyway, so what are we doing? Let's see. Looks like wherever Spambot is, minus 22. Where are you? Jeez, that's not good. That's terrible. Turtles got the first like of the stream. Well, you know what that means. First like of the stream gets double. That's double good karma. Radio Baloney, good karma. That's double. Of course, you get good karma every time you like the stream. Of course, right? Everybody knows that everybody does it because who's going to turn up some free good karma? Not me. I can tell you that much. Not in these troubled times. But the first one gets double. Turtle wins tonight. Also, liking the stream gets you good karma as well. So just keep that in mind. What else we got going on here? All right. So what are we going to talk about tonight? Let's go through the menu quickly. So, of course, we have our cooking shows. We have noodle show, and we have sandwich making show. We have bruschetta making show. But then we have making drinks as well. It's kind of cooking. You know, you need drinks with food and stuff. So we have those, of course. And but it's mainly news. So this is, when we have to take a break, we check the chat, and, we'll just throw it onto one of these cooking shows because it's educational and you guys seem to enjoy them. We're going to talk about DOGE, of course. We got lots of stuff here. Look at, they are freaking out. What a weird hill to die on, right? No, we want to protect the terrible spending, the total wasteful spending. We want to protect the insane things the government's doing. How strange. What a hill to die on. Weird. We've got USAID stuff here. And we're going to go through lots of that. And that'll probably take us a while. We've got something from O'Keefe Media Group here. And this is a national security correspondent for the New York Times talking about there were a ton of FBI informants among the people who attacked the Capitol. So apparently at the New York Times, they all knew this, but they didn't print that for some reason. That's so strange. We'll take a look at that. We're going to take a look at Mark Carney, who's a socialist dingbat, a technocrat, globalist, progressive, central banker, man of the people, Mark Carney. Hey, Izzy, how you doing? Good to see you. All right. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Pierre Poilievre. In fact, we've got an oldie but goodie here where he's talking about woke. How woke has one purpose and only one purpose. And I think you guys know what that is. And that's good. That's something Canada needed to hear. That was showing the way. So inspired by DOGE, Canadians are wanting to find out what their government is spending their money on too. And I actually have covered some of this stuff in the past. But I decided this is the perfect time to get back into it again. So I actually dug in and found what Global Affairs Canada, that's one that's kind of been in the news. And I went through all of this and just the enormous amount. I mean, here, $45 million. United Van Lines for employee relocation outside Canada or return. I mean, it's insanity. There's enormous amounts of money, and I went through a bunch of stuff. Canada Media Fund Corporation, $163 million, 2021. Every year, it's an enormous amount of money, it turns out. Here's another one at 2022, $190 million, Canadian Media Fund Corporation. 2023, $216 million. And we'll get into that because I take a look at them, and guess what? It's all DEI. All DEI, which is why the shows are all terrible and nobody watches them. You've never heard of any of these shows, I can tell you that much. We take a look at here is Foundation for Black Communities, $200 million. There's not that many Black people in Canada. But of course, it's combating anti-Black racism, which just really isn't a thing in Canada. What have we got here? We've got a bunch of stuff. Let's see. Building a culture of peaceful pluralism in Myanmar and Sri Lanka. There's $4,600,000. Got a lot of this stuff. Let's see. Reinforcing community resilience against disinformation in Mali. Well, that's interesting. So there's an enormous amount of this stuff. And we're going to go through all of that. It's just like every one you go through is something that you think, why do we need this? We have, there's a pride group that gets a bunch of funding that we will see that didn't hold a pride parade in 2024 because they didn't want the police there. Backlash over police presence. Why are we funding that? Anti-police, LGBT, like, why does that need to be funded? Then I'm going to show you the circle jerk in the Canadian media and politics and funding in Canada. I've actually done this before, but you guys haven't seen it. So I'm going to show you the connection. So Prime Minister funds activist group. Activist group then works as a source for government-funded, Trudeau-funded media like the CBC. So it's this little circle jerk. So they all say what Trudeau wants to be said. So at the trucker rally, for instance, and I'm going to show you exactly how it works. So here is an article on how the word freedom is actually like a right-wing dog whistle in this CBC article. And who do they quote in this? Well, they quote Evan Balgard, executive director of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. Let's see, where is it? Canadian Anti-Hate Network. You can see $200,000 just in 2024, $440,000 in 2023. So Trudeau funds these guys. He also funds the CBC. The CBC doesn't like the trucker convoy. So the CBC goes to Canadian Anti-Hate Network, funded by Trudeau, the Trudeau Liberals, to ask them, hey, are these people all like racist or far right or something? And they say, sure they are. In fact, they're using the word freedom, which is obviously means like fascism or something. I'll take you through this. I'll explain it to you. It's really gross, actually. It's super transparent. This is how it's done. This is how it's been done in the United States. That's been uncovered with like Politico and funding the New York Times. It's also happening in Canada. In fact, there's two sources in here, both of which get a lot of money. In this CBC article, they go to both of these, Canadian Anti-Hate Network and this University of Ontario Institute of Technology, for quotes, for evidence, for experts to prove that the truckers were actually far right and probably Putin or something, or Nazis or something. It's quite unbelievable. I also wanted to show you this. If you search right-wing under grants and contributions on this government website, you get all of this right-wing extremism stuff. I did the same with left-wing. 0 records. 0. Not one. I guess there's no far-left extremism in Canada, huh? Isn't that interesting? I guess maybe they just nobody got funded to study that, I guess, right? So we uncover all of the corruption here, and we bring you boating videos as well. So hard-hitting investigative journalism and boat videos. And it's just about boating. Anything else in the video is just incidental. Just boating and not jiggling. All right. Anyway, I'm gonna have some coffee. Let's get to the chat. All right. Let's see. Looks like Spambot's getting -30 tomorrow night. Ooh. Ooh, I lived in Alberta for a little while, and that -30s were just not pleasant. You couldn't even go out for a smoke. Ended up having to smoke in the house. Back when I smoked. Izzy says, got like number 4. Will you get 1 regular share of Good Karma then? I'm afraid I can't do any better than that. It's the first one that gets double. Do you know what? Screw it. I'm feeling generous. So the first like gets triple Good Karma. The second and third and fourth all get double Good Karma. This is just a special deal this evening. It's not going to be every night. But use that Good Karma wisely. Let's see. Let's see. Rosie says, just drove in from Birmingham, 28C, 60 miles north. The sun had set, temp down to 58. Let's see. So we're getting weather updates in the chat. MHJ, how you doing? Good to see you. All right. Spambot Fodder says, what boat? You can't see the boat. Let's see. I care. How you doing? He says he was 4th. Well, then you get the double Good Karma as well. And then whoever got 5th also gets double Good Karma. But then everybody after that only gets the normal amount, the normal allotment of Good Karma. I mean, I can't give it all away. All right. And I want testimonials in the chat, by the way, of the results of getting that Good Karma. What happened? How was your life improved? Was there something that was maybe bad going to happen and then it didn't happen? Like you're going to get hit by a bus, but then you didn't? Stuff like that. Or like if you found like $20 in like an old coat you hadn't worn for like a couple of years. Stuff like that. Or you found like a quarter in the couch or something. It could be anything. Or even you thought you were out of cookies, but there was still a cookie left and it was good. It was really good. All right. So should we just get to it? What do you guys think? We already got a pretty good crowd in here. Let's see. Let me check quickly the X feed. Can somebody try putting in? I did a test on X, but it didn't show up in the because Rumble kind of puts like the YouTube chat in there. I think locals, if there's chat there, it would go in there. But X, it didn't go through. If somebody wants to go into X and just type in something and we can see if it works. I don't know. I mean, you don't have to do anything you don't want, but I'm just saying. All right. So let's get started with DOGE, shall we? DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. And yeah, it's driving Democrats absolutely batty. And again, what a hill to die on for them. What a weird hill to die on for them. No, we want to waste taxpayer money. Kaneko the Great says, Senator John Kennedy, Democrats critical of DOGE are not talking about what Elon Musk is finding. No, let's take a look here. They seem to not want to talk about that, just that there's some sort of hostile takeover of the government because like there's transparency now and people can actually see what their money is being spent on. or the money that's borrowed or printed that they're going to have to pay for. Their generations are going to have to pay for. It seems so strange. The whole, like, does a fascist do that? Does a fascist increase transparency of the government and like tell people what they're doing and what they're spending money on? Does he pass an executive order forbidding the government from interfering in citizens' free speech rights, like with social media? I don't think so. That seems like the opposite of fascism. That seems like way more democratic. It seems way more democratic than what, for instance, the Biden administration was obviously doing. But anyway, let's take a look.
With that, we bring in Louisiana Republican Senator John Kennedy. Senator, always good to have you with us. What was your reaction as you watched this sort of longer than usual freewheeling press conference with these two foreign leaders?
Well, number one, I find it refreshing after 4 years where our president wouldn't talk to anyone. Number two, I was paying especially close attention to what the president had to say about reviewing spending. I think it would be fair to say that President Trump is dug in like a tick. He's going to continue. He ran on this issue. He said, if you elect me president, I'm going to review the spending. Now, I don't know how you review the spending without reviewing the spending. No fair-minded person can doubt that the president of the United States has the authority to review the spending in the executive branch. He's delegated that authority to Elon Musk. A lot of my Democratic colleagues and most of the members of the tofu crowd are very upset. They're screaming like Musk stole their dog or something. But one thing they're not talking about is what Mr. Musk is finding. I mean, just at the USAID, he found hundreds of millions, maybe billions of dollars worth of spending porn.
Senator, let me ask you something, if I may. You wrote a piece about Medicaid saying that there is a ton of waste in Medicaid. And you heard President Trump just moments ago. He said, we're not going to touch Social Security. But he said that there are a lot of bad people who shouldn't be on the list, something to that effect when it comes to Medicaid. What did you find and write about this week with regard to that?
The American people, the most generous people in the world. If you're hungry, we'll feed you. If you're homeless, we'll house you. If you're too poor to be sick, we'll pay for your doctor, but all of it's cost money. We're spending about $1 trillion a year on Medicaid. President Biden increased it by about 40%. We estimate that there are between 10 and 30 million people on Medicaid who are perfectly able to work. I've got a bill that says if you're between 18 and 55, you're not disabled, you don't have any minor kids at home, so we're not talking about a mother with a sick child in her arms, you've got to work 20 hours a week. That'll save us, according to CBO, about $100 billion over 10 years.
Right there.
It's not just about the money. There's a moral principle. If you can work, you should work. These programs were not meant to be parking lots. They were meant to be bridges. And for some people, not everybody on Medicaid, but for some people, the best way to get back on your feet is to get off your ass.
Well put. And the piece that you wrote is very interesting. And the idea is that if you are able-bodied and you're accepting Medicaid, you should be working as well. Gainfully employed. Yeah. And it's an idea that I think would be common sense to a lot of people. You also pointed out the psychological benefits of going to work and having a job, and that is what pulls people out of situations where they need this kind of aid. Interesting piece. And Senator, thank you very much. It's always good to have you with us. Thank you, sir.
It's the sort of stuff that drives leftists crazy because they think that, they honestly do think that like self-reliance is like a colonialist, racist thing that white people made up. I mean, there's like billions of people in the world who would disagree with that. But in a university at Harvard, right, they can just bandy about these ideas and it all seems real in their little fantasy bubble. They think that merit is white supremacy, right? They think that conscientiousness, like just showing up on time, right? So they, why would you take these people, these perfectly able-bodied people off this, right? Why would you get rid of the fraud? Like, they hate that. I mean, by the way, that's going to help bankrupt the country. Just any country in the West, it's all the same. It's going to bankrupt the country and speed on the demise, the destruction of the foundations of civilization so they can build their woke dystopia on top of it. So they hate that shit. All right. So what's going on here? DOGE derangement syndrome. Crazy vibes. It is deranged. What a hill to die on for these people. No, we want the waste. We want the insane spending. We want the, transgender comic books in Peru. We want to pay for that. So strange. Like Elizabeth Warren, like what? We will fight transparency in government. Schumer, we will fight responsible use of taxpayer funds. It's just weird. How do they see the win here? Like, is it just that there's, I don't know what, like 30% of any population that's just too far gone. That's just totally captured, right? They'll never see sense again. Is that who they're talking to? Last I saw, like, approval of the Democrats was like 33%, somewhere around there. So, there is some portion, and it's not a small portion of any population. I think Scott Adams says, it's 25% of the population anywhere is just always wrong about everything. I guess that's who they're appealing to people that are always wrong about everything. Let's see. Carrie Lake. Politico ran probably no fewer than 50 hit pieces on me over the past 3.5 years. So Politico, as we now know, was basically reliant on the U.S. government to exist. So the U.S. government was funding it to attack its enemies, to attack anything conservative, to attack people like Carrie Lake. Let's take a look.
Politico ran probably no fewer than 50 hit pieces on me over the past 4 years, 3.5 years. I think it's election interference when they are being funded by the USAID and they're running hit pieces only on, MAGA type America First candidates. They attacked me nonstop.
Unbelievable.
And they just put another hit piece out on me today, and they did it constantly with President Trump as well. Our tax dollars shouldn't be going to that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They're finally being called out. Carrie Lake, we'll have you back soon. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Ed. Politico ran probably no fewer than...
I mean, what a scandal, right? Is this a result of them getting rid of the Smith-Mundt Act? So removing the barrier to propagandizing, removing the barrier to propagandizing your own population. That's something we talked about on this stream. That's something you guys in the chat wanted to talk about, and we looked it up. So it's interesting, isn't it? But I mean, it is an enormous scandal, but you've got a problem, a little bit of a problem, in that the legacy media, the corporate media, is all in on it, and they don't want to talk about it. They're just going to ignore it, right? They're certainly not going to volunteer any money they're getting. So fortunately, we have platforms like X now. We have independent media that can expose this stuff. So it can't just be hidden anymore. But you will have that, 30, 40% of a population at least that will never see it, that will never go anywhere other than CNN or MSNBC. And they just simply won't know. All they'll know is that it's a hostile takeover by Elon Musk, is destroying democracy and he's stopping wells from being built in Africa and stuff. And they will actually never have any idea of actually what's going on. These are the same people that still think that Trump called Nazis fine people. And they still think, as unbelievable as it is, but there are millions of people who still believe that Trump threatened to slaughter all of his enemies. He threatened to slaughter everybody if he doesn't win the election. So those people do exist. And I don't feel sorry for them, to be honest. I just wish that they would occasionally turn off CNN. All right. What's going on in the chat? So it looks like you guys did. Rosie Miles checked out the X chat, which is working, but it looks like it's not translating over onto our, it's not aggregating onto our regular chat that gets YouTube and Rumble mixed together. So I don't know. I don't know what to do. I guess it just works that way. Maybe that'll get fixed at some point. I don't know. I'm never going to think about it again, though. Let's see. It just causes me anxiety. No, it doesn't. I don't actually. Whatever. We get lots of chat going. There's too much chat for me to handle just on Rumble. Let's see. All right, let's get into the chat a little bit, and then we will move on. Let's see. Rosie says, I love John Kennedy from Louisiana. He's quite good. He's a quote farm. Let's see. Rosie says, a majority of my clients are disabled. About half of them are on Medicaid. Most of them would work if they could. They have even tried despite disability. And then there are people that grift. Yeah, there's always going to be fraud. Always. And no matter what it is, as long as the pool of people is big enough, the pool of recipients is big enough, there's going to be fraud just in anything. And it's just sensible to try and root that out, because why would you want to waste money? Especially when you've got, like, what is it, $23 trillion in debt? Rosie says, I love the Elon dance. Elon dance is great. Let's see. Spambot saying Rumble stream is lagging yet again. X is lag free. Well, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Jesse says Trump is fighting the Smith Month violations, but he isn't reversing Obama Smith Month reform legally. Izzy says a lot of problems in the world would be fixed if people stopped listening to CNN. Yeah, we say the same thing about CBC in Canada, and they say the same thing about BBC in the UK. It's not good to have to pay to be propagandized, to have to pay people to propagandize you, pay ideologues to propagandize you. It's not good. It's rather undignified, I think. So what's going on here? Biden paid $5 billion to unnamed foreign sources, and no one knows where it went. Has anybody checked his couch, under the cushions on his couch? Let's see. Let's see what Jesse has to say about this. Okay.
The government's been robbing us blind. We've been writing checks, $6 million for tourism in Egypt. Like Egypt needs help with that. They have the pyramids. We should be spending money on cleaning up California so that tourists can vacation in California. $2 million to help the BBC value the diversity of Libyan society. We're bribing the BBC to cover Libya better? Why? $1 million for a gay group in Armenia. There it is.
Wait a second. The diversity in Libya. Hold on. Let's go back to that.
California. $2 million to help the BBC value the diversity of Libyan society.
Diversity of Libyan society. They've got open slave markets in Libya now. Ever since Hillary Rodham Clinton decided that she wanted to take Gaddafi down for political gain, obviously, right? Because she knew she was going to be running for president. She wanted to win. She wanted a notch in her belt. Now they have open slave markets there where they sell sub-Saharan Africans in open slave markets. Is that the diversity that it's going towards? Anyway.
We're bribing the BBC to cover Libya better? Why? $1 million for a gay group in Armenia. There it is. We paid $20 million for Iraqi Sesame Street.
افتح يا سمسم افتح يا سمسم أبوابك نحن الأطفال لا 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 لا
You paid for Bert and Ernie. And
they don't actually show the beheadings in that clip there. It's later on, but in any case, it's way more beheadings than like normal Sesame Street. I can tell you that. We've actually got a funny video coming up later. I think maybe Rosie sent it to me. A lot of the comedy stuff she sends, which is quite hilarious, actually. It looks like it was from some comedy show from like the 90s or something, but it's funny as hell, and I'll show it to you. Let's continue.
Baghdad. Weren't we just bombing these people? Now we're paying for their Muppet shows? We're sick. There is something sick with us. You also paid for an Irish DEI musical.
On behalf of Ambassador Cronin, it is an honor to welcome all of her guests to Deerfield tonight for this important event. Increasing access to opportunity and equity is a cornerstone of the Biden administration, and we're so proud to play a small part in that here.
This is a government theft ring. We spent $2 million for trans surgeries in Guatemala. I'm going to go out on a limb. One Guatemalan dude got breast implants. And we probably kicked back the...
I want to go back to this.
On behalf of Ambassador Cronin, it is an honor to welcome all of her guests to Deerfield tonight for this important event. Increasing access to opportunity and equity is a cornerstone of the Biden administration, and we're so proud to play a small part in that here.
I thought that funding torture was illegal in the U.S. Where was that? Was that happening at Guantanamo? Let's continue.
This is a government theft ring. We spent $2 million for trans surgeries in Guatemala. I'm going to go out on a limb. One Guatemalan dude got breast implants. And we probably kicked back the rest of the cash to a crooked Guatemalan politician and the corrupt liberal CEO of the group they laundered the money through. Because all this money we're spending, we could have turned the whole world trans. We could have made every man a woman and every woman a man with this kind of money. Do you really think it costs $20 million to produce an episode of Sesame Street? You could hire Tom Cruise to play Oscar the Grouch.
I think there's probably some like Guatemalan transgender tortilla art going on. I don't know, maybe.
For that money. Check this. Biden paid nearly $5 billion to unnamed foreign sources. Whoever's getting our money is so shady, our government can't even put it in writing. They just call it aid. I bet a lot of this money is to bribe foreign officials to win bids for American companies, or to bribe foreign politicians just to have in our pockets, or just to subsidize far-left foundations. Most of the people getting money from these grants aren't in the country. They pump it into overseas organizations, and then we never see them. Any liberal with an international women's studies degree can launch a 501c3, apply for a government grant, and spin it off into a left-wing piggy bank. USAID paid $235 million to the National Democratic Institute. Okay, well, that sounds benign. No, millions of that money went to executive compensation, meaning salaries for all the liberals with no skills. I bet most of that money didn't go to supporting democracy. It went to supporting liberal lifestyles. Democrats have been sucking off the teat of government.
Yeah, they're on the boards of these things. They have all these nonprofits, right? And then they pay themselves handsomely, but you can be on the board of like 10 of them, right? Pay yourself $50,000 each, right? Basically do no work and just make a fortune. I guarantee, I'm assuming they're going to come up with a number for the actual just outright fraud, stuff that just never got done. the money laundering. I'm assuming that Elon is going to come up with an actual number for that. I mean, that's the sort of thing he would totally do, right? That'll be interesting to see. It's good. I'm sure it's going to be horrifying.
For decades. And Trump caught him. As one Trump insider says, you bring USAID to heel and you end the Democrat gravy train. USAID is just the beginning. You start peeling back at the layers of every agency, and all you find out is pork that winds up in the wrong people's pockets. The government's.
And the Treasury was just putting all this stuff through, no questions asked. It's incredible. Let's see. What was this one? So, from Amuse, DOGE, Democrats in Congress didn't seem to mind that China had remote access to every workstation in the Treasury as recently as December. Now, a month later, they're freaking out that Trump's appointees are accessing the very same computers, demanding violence in the streets. China was given remote access to all Treasury workstations. The month before Trump took office, Biden's administration sent a letter to Congress admitting that days earlier, a Chinese state-sponsored advanced persistent threat actor secured remote access to every workstation in the Department of the Treasury. Democrats barely blinked an eye. Now that Trump's appointees are accessing these same systems, Democrats are calling for violent street protests. Well, isn't that interesting? Well, I mean, the reason they're upset is because their enemies are going to expose all of the fraud, the corruption, the waste, right? That's transparency is their enemy. Ultimately, truth is their enemy. Reality is their enemy, right? Biology is their enemy, right? Just accurately describing reality is their enemy. Everything has just been so shrouded. Everything left has been so shrouded behind these clouds, these dark clouds of isms and ists and phobes, and you're this and you're that, and you're a bad person, and you're the bad guys from Germany in 1945. Everything's been hidden behind the shroud of leftist accusation, right? And that's all lifted. The spell is broken now, right? The spell, the magic spell that's supposed to shroud your brain in confusion, right? And fear, so that you just look down and go, okay, well, I don't want to be an ist or a phobe or something, right? That spell is broken. And now now the skies are clearing, right? And things are becoming transparent. And that's good. Again, being angry at transparency makes you look really guilty. It makes you look like you're doing something wrong. Let's see. Breaking. President Trump orders the General Services Administration to terminate every single media contract expensed by the agency. Trump administration official wrote, pull every single media contract for GSA, Politico, BBC, and Bloomberg. BBC. Amazing. Let's see. How about this one? Savage, don't you just love her? So here's Carolyn Levitt. I think actually fairly attractive new press secretary. Let's take a look.
And one more thing before I wrap up, because I do want to get to these meetings and I will see you all at the EO signing later this afternoon. I would just say that you brought to mind California and North Carolina, who continue to be on our hearts, and the president and this administration are committed to ensuring that these individuals get the funding that they need. And I would just say a strong message to Democrats who are out there pretending to be outraged about the long list of crap that this administration is cutting, federal waste and funding, like $2 million for sex changes in Guatemala, $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt, $20 million on a new Sesame Street show in Iraq, $4.5 million to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan. I could go on, and I'm happy to provide this list to every single one of you. Democrats are outraged that the American people want to be, they want their taxpayers going to good uses, not stuff like this. But then they're very quiet about the fact that there are still North Carolinians and people in California who have lost everything. And in the last 4 years, this federal government did nothing to help them. This president will continue to put Americans first. And I think the successes of this week so far speak to that. And it's only Wednesday. So I'll see you guys later this week, and we'll see you this afternoon. Thank you very much.
So she's just... Now, the job of the press secretary is always to support the administration and to spin. She's not needing to spin. She's just telling the truth. When you can just tell the truth, I think it makes your job easier. Like Karine Jean-Pierre, I almost felt sorry for her because she had to go out and just outrageously lie every single time and deflect because so much was just indefensible. But she's doing a great job. They chose well with her. Let's see. How about this one? $8 million to study the effect of flavored cigarettes on bisexuals and lesbians. University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Dear me. AOC, we already did her. I wanted to find... Hold on a second. I want to find one of these Democrats that's just totally outraged. I think they're in here somewhere. Hold on. So this is just the latest stuff I've collected. We covered a lot of it last time too. There's just so much is the thing. And it's just going to keep going too. I mean, it's not going to stop. Let's see. Well, maybe it's in here. Hold on. I want to show one of these guys. I'm sure I've got one in here. Hold on. All right. So this is specifically the USAID stuff. All right. Hold on. All right, Michael Schellenberger, the House of... In fact, let's actually hold on. Let's get to the chat quickly before we keep going. And I think we're going to cut off the YouTube fairly soon because again, I mean, we had some, for some reason, YouTube started letting people know that I had a live stream happening. We're starting to get some decent crowds, and now it's just gone to nothing again. So there's not really much point going on for too long. Well, I don't know. Maybe we'll go 2 hours and see if it picks up later. But in any case, and I'll try not to put anything on that will get me in trouble with YouTube. The last stream I had to do some editing afterwards because there's always some bullshit. Jesse says they've been taking our tax money and using it to brainwash us since Obama. Yep. I mean, there's always been some social engineering happening, but it's just out of control now. I mean, they've just completely captured the legacy media. Jesse says the people crying about the exposure of waste are the ones wasting the tax dollars for a profit. You know, there's an enormous amount of corruption involved. Let's see. Rosie says, wait, so why does GSA have a media contract? They cut checks. Why does that warrant media? Oh, wait, they have been acting like Ed McMahon. I get it now. They must be using those huge 6-foot checks on TV. I'm sure that's how they do it. So when they give somebody a massive check, it's actually the huge check, and they show up, and it's not Ed McMahon. He's passed, unfortunately, but somebody else. Maybe Drew Carey does it now. Let's see. Rosie asked, did Newsom really announce LA is using eminent domain to rebuild? I saw something. I haven't looked into it. I've got so much. I spent a lot of time researching before this stream as well for the Canadian DOGE stuff. But that's one we can look into. Maybe we'll look into it later if the stream runs a little bit short. I don't think it will, but maybe we'll take a look. I did see something about he wants to transform that area and put up a bunch of high rises and stuff. So I don't know. Wouldn't be surprising. Let's see. Izzy says, what the fuck? Like who you sleep with would make a difference to smoking. I know, it's all crazy. It's all crazy. Turtles just says simply boobs. Let's see. Rosie says, if we had only known, we could have had a grant from USAID for studying how Radio Baloney affects people who are opposed to mainstream media. That would be worth millions to each viewer, right? It would be. Too slow, though. Too slow. Let's see. Jesse says, noodles. We love the noodles. Let's see. All right. Let's move on. So let's get into the USAID stuff. Michael Schellenberger. The House of Representatives impeached President Donald Trump on December 18th, 2019, after a White House whistleblower went public with evidence that Trump abused his powers by withholding military aid to Ukraine in order to dig up dirt on his rival Joe Biden. In the complaint, the whistleblower claimed to have heard from White House staff that Trump had, on a phone call, directed Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to work with his personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, to investigate Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. And it's a good thing they impeached him, because investigating a president or a former president or, or a former vice president, I mean, that's, wait a second, Biden. It's amazing, really, isn't it? It just doesn't matter to them. It doesn't matter. Let's see. The whistleblower who triggered the impeachment was a CIA analyst who was first brought into the White House by the Obama administration. Well, let's take a look at the video here at the bottom. Let's take a peek at this.
Hey, everybody. It's Mike Schellenberger for Public. The House of Representatives impeached President Donald Trump in December 2019 after a White House whistleblower went public with evidence that Trump had abused his powers by withholding military aid to Ukraine in order to dig up dirt on his rival Joe Biden. In the complaint, the whistleblower claimed to have heard from White House staff that Trump had, on a phone call, directed Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to work with his personal attorney at the time, Rudy Giuliani, to investigate Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. The whistleblower who triggered the impeachment was a CIA analyst who was first brought into the White House by the Obama administration. Reporting by Dropsite News last year revealed that the CIA analyst had relied on reporting by a supposedly independent investigative news organization called the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, or the OCCRP, which appears to have effectively operated as an arm of the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, which President Trump has just shut down. The CIA whistleblower complaint cited a long report by OCCRP 4 times. The OCCRP report alleged that 2 Soviet-born Florida businessmen were key hidden actors behind a plan by Trump to investigate the Bidens. Those 2 businessmen connected Giuliani to 2 former Ukrainian prosecutors, according to OCCRP. The OCCRP story was crucial to the House Democrats' impeachment claim, which is that Trump dispatched Giuliani as part of a coordinated effort to pressure a foreign country to interfere in the 2020 presidential election, which is why the whistleblower cited it 4 separate times. In a 2024 documentary that the German television broadcaster NDR made about OCCRP's dependence on the U.S. government, a USAID official confirmed that USAID approves OCCRP's annual work plan and approves of new hires of key personnel. NDR had initiated and carried out the investigation with a French investigative news organization called Mediapart, an Italian news group called Il Fatto Quotidiano, Reporters United in Greece, and Dropsite News in the United States. However, according to a Mediapart story published the same day as the Dropsite News article, NDR censored the broadcast after U.S. journalist Drew Sullivan, the co-founder and head of OCCRP, placed pressure on the NDR management and made false accusations against the broadcaster's own journalists who had been involved in the project. On December 16th, DropSite's Ryan Grimm posted a link on X to the 26-minute-long documentary. NDR, Germany's public broadcaster, is facing a censorship scandal, he wrote, and it's defended itself by saying it never killed a news report about OCCRP and its State Department funding because no report was ever produced to kill. That was absurd, wrote Grimm, and dozens, maybe hundreds of journalists knew it to be false. And now, of course, someone has leaked it. The DropSite journalistic collaboration revealed that OCCRP's original funding came from the Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs of the United States State Department. And it quotes a USAID official who says,
She was just nervous about being linked with law enforcement. Yeah.
But why?
You know, because sources maybe, right? If people that are going to give you information think, oh, you're just an arm of, you know, you're just a cop, right? I mean, maybe it's a problem. Or and other governments, you know, say you're trying to get into a country and do something, and the government says, "Oh, what are you, law enforcement or not?" Right? Like, there's a need that, you know, the separation, the independence is important, because if you lose that, you lose your sense of, like, you know, your it's a value. Your reputation is incredibly important.
OCCRP does not operate like a normal investigative journalism organization in that its goals appear to include interfering in foreign political matters, including foreign elections, that are aimed at regime change. Sullivan told NDR,
"We've probably been responsible for about 5 or 6 countries changing over from one government to another government. You know, because and getting, you know, and people, you know, prime ministers indicted or thrown out."
As such, it appears that the CIA, USAID, and OCCRP were all involved in the impeachment of President Trump in ways similar to the regime change operations that all three organizations engage in abroad. The difference here is that it is highly illegal and even treasonous for CIA, USAID, and its contractors and intermediaries, often called cutouts, to interfere in U.S. politics in this way. In response to questions that we sent to OCCRP, it threatened to file a lawsuit against us. "The premise of your article is factually false and defamatory," wrote Miranda Petrusik, the editor-in-chief of OCCRP, in an email to us. "The claim by DropSite News and partner media that USAID has control over editorial appointments has been disproven," she wrote, "and we suggest you read our response to that." But neither OCCRP nor anyone else has disproved DropSite's allegations, and DropSite stands by them. And the evidence does not support OCCRP's claim of journalistic independence. If you're not already a subscriber to Public, please subscribe now to support our award-winning investigative journalism, our defense of free speech, and to watch the rest of this video and read the rest.
So it's just all very labyrinthine, isn't it? And that would be on purpose, right? To make it confusing, to make it hard to follow. Really amazing. Dave Rubin says the USAID story is way bigger than most people realize. It's not just that they funded Politico, New York Times, etc., but then the articles in those publications were used as sources all over CNN, NBC News, etc., to further push their agenda. This is how they laundered the lies. And I'm going to show you how it's done in Canada later on in the stream. We'll get to that because I've got my own little personal Canada Doge going on for this stream. We'll get to that in a bit. Let's see. Michael Schellenberger, USAID's defenders say it's about charity and development in poor nations. It's not. It's a $40 billion driver of regime change abroad. And now the evidence suggests that it, along with the CIA, were behind the 2019 impeachment of Trump, an illegal regime change effort at home. So USAID was, I believe it was actually founded with an executive order by Kennedy in 1960, and it's been a CIA front through the Cold War. And it's just continued after the fall of the Soviet Union. It's just continued with its purpose. Only it seems to have been infected with the woke mind virus by the idea pathogen. And as we know, any institution that is infected by that will become, at least, but in large part, about spreading the mind virus, right? So where are the people that will be involved in all of this? All right, they're not going to hire somebody who was a cab driver. These are people coming out of like Ivy League universities. They've been through the indoctrination mill, right? And they've been sucked right into government, into agencies. And they've taken their brainwashing, their indoctrination with them. And that's why you see, transgender comic books and funding for transgender comic books in Peru, and trans operas, and, gender studies for Sri Lanka and all that stuff. Why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't every other institution has been captured, right? So why wouldn't you see that? Let's see. Hold on a second. Kash Patel news. Kash Patel news. I don't think that's actually Kash Patel. Oh, maybe it is. I don't know. In the Clinton Foundation raked in millions from USAID. In 2010, USAID managed $4.4 billion for Haiti under Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. The Clinton Foundation was a significant player in those Haiti efforts. Where did the money go? Well, I guess somebody should ask Hillary Clinton, but they're not going to. All right. So let's move on. So let's cover some other stuff, and then we're going to get to, again, my own personal little Canada Doge, which you're going to be able to enjoy tonight and see some of the ways that Canada is wasting enormous amounts of money. Let's see. So this is Matthew Rosenberg, national security correspondent for the Democrat Times, formerly New York Times, a USAID recipient. Now, the New York Times does get government money, busted on camera, admitting that there were tons of FBI informants among the people who attacked the Capitol. So this was from O'Keefe Media Group. Let's take a look. James O'Keefe Media Group.
It's like January 6th stuff that is like so over at this point. It's so over. The left's overreaction, the left's reaction to it in some places was so over the top. It was like me and two other colleagues who were there, who were outside. And we were just like, dude, come on. Like, you were not in any danger.
Matthew Rosenberg is a Pulitzer Prize-winning national security correspondent for the New York Times.
Are you allowed to have that much fun on January 6th? Are you supposed to be mourning?
I know. So they're traumatized. But like, all these colleagues who were in the building, oh my God, it's so scary. I'm like, oh, God.
Is that really the vibe, Matt?
From them. I'm like, come on. Like, it's not the kind of place I can say tell somebody to man up, but I kind of want to. You're like, dude, come on. Like, you were not in any danger.
Got an Zola, got an Adam,
Who's inside?
Little dweebs. They keep going on about their trauma. I'm like, guys, shut the f*** up. I don't know if they wrote about their trauma. This chick named Emily Cochran and this guy named Nick Fandos. They're both in their 20s.
So this confirms what we already knew, that institutions like the New York Times are full of woke babies, woke lunatics, the most emotionally unstable people in the world. But it also shows us that not everybody there is delusional, right? But I guess their voices don't get through. This. And how did it happen? It happened by coddling the babies, by coddling them, right? And not realizing that these aren't liberals, right? They weren't liberals. These were authoritarian leftists that were moving in. But so many liberals just tolerated it. They just excuse them. Oh, they'll, these are just things they learned in college. Well, guess what? They didn't forget. They didn't change. They changed the institutions. They made the institutions conform to them, not the other way around, right? And, he is expressing that. He's revealing that to us, but we already knew it, didn't we? All right, let's move on. So let's talk about, actually, let's get to the chat for a little bit. Hold on, we'll put our boating show back on. What are you guys talking about? All right, you know what? We're gonna just we're gonna turn off the YouTube stream now. There's no point running it still. Again, it's funny how, I mean, why would you get like 1,500 people not watching all at once, but going in the stream over the course of a couple of hours? Then you have 700. Why would it go from because we get order of magnitude or more people watching on Rumble. We always have a good crowd on Rumble. The chat's always really busy. But on YouTube, people don't see, nobody knows that my live stream is on there, apparently. But then suddenly, all of a sudden, it's like the algorithm made a mistake for a couple of weeks. And then, hey, there's actually lots of people seeing it. And then just nobody again. It shows you that there's something fundamentally dishonest happening. But anyway, let's just cut it out now. Let's just move on. Anybody who's watching right now, please join us on Rumble. The water's great. The chat's really fun. Chat's always really busy. Join us over here. Otherwise, we'll see you on Sunday. All right, there we go.